What do the rich buy that the poor don't even know is available for purchase? A while back some guy on here was talking about his experience working as a sort of personnel manager for a billionaire and how things are just wildly different for them. The specific example he used was how things work when these people want to go on a trip and give any notice at all to their employees. What happens is that an advanced team gets sent ahead by a few days to scope out the rented/bought location and report back exact dimensions for closet space, drawer space, etc. People back at the home go through the clothing, jewelry, etc. and draw up a priority list which is sent to the advanced team. The advanced team then spends the next 2 days purchasing the list of items. Entire wardrobes, jewelry sets, makeup kits, bathing supplies, etc. Anything they cannot get, not enough time, or is one of a kind like the family heirloom watch the rich dude wears every now and then, is relayed to the house team. The family schedule is arranged such that the moment the family leaves the house on the day of travel, a whole team of people rushes through and packs up all the remaining items. Only after the family leaves, you wouldn't want to deny them access to their items for even a few seconds, which are then sent ahead to the airport while the family has a lunch or something somewhere. Upon landing, their luggage takes one route, direct, and the family takes a similarly indirect route, unless otherwise directed, such that by the time they get to the location all of their items are not just unpacked, but in their proper, organized locations and ready for use without any of the advanced team ever being visible to the family. What happens when the family leaves the location? The same situation in reverse, but quite frequently all of the repurchased items are just disposed of in some method. It's just easier, if not cheaper, to rebuy them each time the family goes somewhere, if they aren't traveling to too many different locations in quick succession. This is some pharaohs of Egypt level shit. How are these billionaires even functional people when literally everything is done for them in life? Will Smith recently said in an interview that Oprah has been famous and wealthy for so long that she just forgets about the simplest things because she's used to her minders taking care of things like carrying her coffee. Will Smith then mentioned that he once saw Obama fetch some food for Oprah. That's hilarious, the president grabbing food for a TV host. A person to go to jail for you in your stead. This is a known phenomenon in Latin America, but I imagine it happens in other places as well. Certainly amongst the accuser it happens. I knew a guy who did 8 years for his boss and got paid. Hey man, my family is one medium accident or bad event away from completely imploding. If push came to shove, I'd serve time to make sure everyone else stays afloat. You're a good person. Your family are lucky to have you. The fire crest is on the run already. He's just here for the free props. I had a buddy who hired a driver, got him to get a chauffeur's license, and then made sure his Jaguar was long enough to meet criteria as a limo, and then he could legally drink in the backseat. When I traveled with him internationally, someone met us at the door when we were dropped off, and they walked us to our plane. None of that custom/security stuff occurred. In our way your vehicle doesn't have to meet length requirements. My husband worked with a guy whose wife got her chauffeur's license, so he could drink in the backseat of their sedan. True love right here. True Iowa right there. Drinking in the car, and not in a cornfield. I don't think he's doing it right. Pre-gaming on his way to the cornfield? Private boarding gate at certain airports. Complete with showers, a spa, full bar, lounge, food, a bed, gym, sauna etc. Total privacy. Your luggage is scanned and taken through security by a concierge, and you're driven to the plane in a BMW 8 Series. Lax has them now. Hello, yes, I would like to order some wealthiness, just so I can have access to the private boarding gate. Yes, I'll hold. Thank you. Friend, this guy doesn't even have enough money to have someone else call for him. Just leave him on hold for an hour. Or maybe he's so rich that he already has the technology to clone himself. I have been on hold for 5 minutes. Please wait while I buy North Korea's nuclear warheads and launch them at you. If you're willing to fork out $35,000 for the player and $500 per showing, you can watch films that are currently in theaters in your own private home theater. Wow, who would have thought a private showing is only twice as much as a normal movie ticket? Yeah, I mean, if you just skip the snack bar at the theater it evens out to the same cost basically. Yes, but if you do that, the theater owners can't survive. I shall own the theater and raise the prices of all snacks. $10 red beans, $12 popcorn and $3 nachos. Worst of all, cheese is an extra $12. Are Twizzlers available? Everyone knows about mega yachts, but the very rich also enjoy their own trains, or at the very least private super luxurious train cars. With their budgets it isn't expensive to rent space on freight lines and an engine, assuming they don't own their own. Sometimes a group of friends will hook their private cars together and motor around a continent having a big party. Now I'm imagining some fat cat in his luxury train car between a bunch of loads of coal and some hobos in an empty boxcar. Although not around the continent, I have been lucky enough to be invited on a rich friend's train trips, one from San Francisco to Reno, Nevada and back, in the winter, going through the mountains, beautiful, and one going from SF to LA and back, in the summer, along the coast, also beautiful. Both trips we had 3 vintage train cars, 1920, 1935 and 1940, full bar, sit down dining, everyone dressed up vintage, and it was fantastic. What train travel is in our fantasies, not like Amtrak these days with packaged cold sandwiches and plastic cups. I worked with a guy who had his own private train car. He was an older Wall Street guy, definitely wealthy but not super rich, maybe earning $1 million a year living in Manhattan. He described it as, instead of having a boat, I have this. Landing 747s in small airports. I grew up around Lexington, Kentucky. The region is huge on horses, particularly thoroughbred horses. The entire city is surrounded by horse farms, and these farms breed some of the best racing horses in the world. The rich and famous will often come here to buy thoroughbreds to add to their breeding stock. One such person is a sheik from Dubai, I think, who owns his own private 747. Now the local airport isn't rated for 747s, and it's not legal to land one there, unless it's an emergency. The sheik doesn't care though, and lands his 747 there anyways. The airport fines him every time he does this, which he is totally fine with paying. I've been told that many of the upgrades to the airport over the years were almost entirely funded with money from those fines. In London, rich people figured out it was cheaper to just park on the streets illegally and just pay the fines every day than to pay for parking in the city. So the city started clamping cars, so the rich people started paying people to go and pay the fine for the car to be UN clamped before they wanted to leave. I've heard that now, in response to this, the police have changed their policy for certain parking spots. Instead of just booting the car, they'll have it towed right away. And then scrapped. Do not pass geo, do not collect $200. Slam bam boom, away to the scrapyard. The rich people in London have started to take those no parking zones a bit more seriously after that. Even if they could afford to buy a new car every week, it means that they'd be out a car the moment they set foot back outside. Specialized household staff. When someone is truly mega rich, running their household takes the same complexity as running a small to mid-sized company, and management is skilled and compensated accordingly. Don't think butler, think head of operations at a luxury hotel. The staff that household managers oversee can be really specialized as well. For example, Larry Ellison has his own personal curator to oversee his collection of Asian art. They do things like advise on the purchase and sale of art in his collection, oversee storage and display of art housed on his property, oversee process of lending art for storage and display at museums. The curator will often have their own staff to conduct actual conservation work, art transport, art installation, etc. So if you've already got an in-house crew of 7 people focused on your art collection alone, imagine how big your entire household staff is. That's why you've got a household manager. Yeah, I was hired a few times by a housekeeper of an ultra-rich guy to fix everything electronic in the house. I installed smart mirrors in the bathrooms. I built and maintained a theater in the basement. I installed sound systems. Maintained a small server in their house with Microsoft Server and VMware for different parts of his business life. I did a fuck ton of side work in this guy's house for probably 2 years. I worked on various things. Made pretty good money. Paid for a car in my daughter's birth, and paid off a lot of loans with that gig. This guy though had a staff of people. They didn't live there except for one person who house-sitted full-time. He was the guy who scheduled all the work. People don't even know what wealth is. I met a guy who worked for someone like that when I was in computer retail, except the guy he worked for hated new technology. It was 2011, and the guy was in my store for an exact replacement for a dial-up modem. Private performances with big-name artists. I was on a yacht in the Virgin Islands and some mega yacht owner pretty close to us had Christina Aguilera flown in to perform for his guest on the mega yacht. We were close enough to see the performance, not close enough to pretend to be part of the party. I saw an interview with Penn from Penn and Teller talk about doing a private show on a yacht for one of the Microsoft guys. They paid to shut down the Vegas show for a week, flew Penn Teller and their crew to Asia, put them up for a week on a luxury yacht, and had them do one show for their friends. There was a couple of big name bands on this cruise as well. Sometimes you can get lesser name artists to perform for under 10k. I had a buddy that used his savings to hire Afroman for a block party. Thanks for the silver kind stranger. Afroman will show up for $10k, seems about right. We paid him $6 to do a fraternity party in 2010. Well worth it. Something they do that most people don't know about is buy entire libraries at once. My sister used to work at a bookstore and told me someone came in and wanted to furnish their library with a library size purchase of books. They just wanted cherry-picked bestsellers left to the discretion of the people working there. It sounded wild. Edit. This place is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm here for it. Had no idea you could buy books by the foot. What a bizarre idea. Some wealthy people also buy books as decoration, with no intent of reading most of them. They buy books from wholesalers by the linear foot, specifying how the books look on the shelves, size, color, material of spine, etc., without any regard for what the books actually are. They just need to fill wall space in library/office rooms in their homes. That sounds so sad. How can you buy a book and not read it? While I agree it's sad to not read a book you buy, the books that are sold for decoration are generally not very good books in the first place. Private jet timeshares. For those not quite rich enough for their own private jet, or those rich people wanting to be a bit frugal, the really rich motto, if it fly, floats or fuck, you rent it. Edit. No, I haven't seen Ballers. It's a very old saying. Drive wasn't in it when I heard it, but it makes sense I guess. I was a mechanic for a while, and one of the guys used to always say this. It always makes way more sense to me that a rich person would lease a car than buy it. First and foremost, they always want the latest and greatest. People may think Steve Jobs was eccentric for leasing a new car every 6 months, but it's a pretty fucking solid way to ensure you'll probably never be left stranded on the road and you won't be bothering with buying and selling constantly. Obviously there are exceptions for classic cars and supercars and shit that will retain their value and people collect for fun, but if you're trying to drive the latest Tesla all the time, I get why you'd lease it. Also, Jobs apparently did that, since the law in California had it so if you just purchased/leased a car you had up to 6 months after registration to put the plates on it, so he released one every 6 months, so he never had to have license plates on his car. Don't leave out the punk line on this story. The reason he wanted a car without plates is so that he could park in handicapped spaces without having to deal with parking tickets.